Hey everyone, and welcome back to SQL Squared, where we chat about all things data development and the cool tech shaping our world. Today, we have a fantastic guest, Sergio Sisternes. Sergio is the Director of Technology Solutions for Microsoft Azure at EPAM, where he leads a high-performance team and architects delivering cloud and AI solutions for the future. And we've caught him at the perfect time. He's fresh off the plane at Github Universe, and I'm hoping he has a ton of first-hand news and insights for us. Sergio, it's great to have you on the show.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and really looking forward to this.
Good. I'm looking forward to the chat as well. We're incredibly lucky today because we're getting a direct debrief from one of the biggest events in tech. We're going to be unpacking the key announcements from GitHub Universe, and most importantly, discussing what they actually mean for us developers. We'll explore how the new wave of AI is changing the game and how that impacts the day-to-day of a developer versus an architect. We'll look at how these new tools fit into a cloud-native world, and we'll cap it off by looking at what this all means for the future of our roles. So, the first topic we have today, obviously mainly around GitHub Universe, it's going to set the scene, the vibe and the keynotes that you went to. Hoping you really enjoyed the event and the traveling back and forth wasn't too painful. I know you flew back into the UK yesterday, so I also hope you're not too tired this morning. So thanks for keeping the recording time in. But for those that weren't there, I wasn't there. I'm going to act like the audience right now. How was it? Was it good? What was the overall vibe? And I also want to know. I can imagine what it is already, but what was the one word you kept hearing over and over again?
No, Universe is an amazing experience, right? To be in Silicon Valley, right? With all the bright minds surrounding you. And yeah, that's where the future is written again, right? And so yeah, I think obviously you can imagine that the one word that we heard in the 2 days that the event lasted was Copilot. Copilot everywhere. Copilot, not only for developers, but for all the stages of the software development life cycle, right? From requirements to deployment to operations. Copilot is becoming the center stage for all things SDLC, right? And for instance, they announced Agent HQ, which in the end is a new way to make GitHub a central platform where all the AI agents from different vendors are going to get consolidated, creating a unified user experience centrally on GitHub. Okay. Also, mission control is going to be a key part of their strategy, right? Is a way on which all these centralized agents can be governed, can be controlled, can be monitored, right? Because the strategy is clear. We want to see more and more agents working for us, playing specific roles in the SDLC, and helping us to take away the burdens of the common tasks that we are doing day to day.
Yeah, I've been looking through their recap page, and for those listening, I'll link it in the description. That Agent HQ looks like a game changer to me. Being able to use the right agents for the right job, all within GitHub itself, and kind of setting it all up there as well. And the link to VS Code, being able to manage it all within your IDE rather than going directly into GitHub with the MCP. Yeah, seems like a real game changer. I've been using GitHub Copilot a lot recently. It was ever since your talk in Manchester, actually.
Thank you.
That really put it into perspective for me what agents can do for you when developing. So I've been doing a few projects myself and using all those features, and I'm really looking forward to kind of expanding my portfolio with all the new features.
Yeah, and also we see that we're not only getting more and more AI capabilities, but GitHub is focusing also in making sure that they can be leveraged at enterprise level, right? With all the centralized AI governance tools, for instance, all the metrics that we are getting out of GitHub Copilot that really have from an enterprise level more and more controls. Something that sounded like not that big, but I think it's going to be really relevant for many enterprise clients as well, is the ability to have self-hosted GitHub coding agents, right? So today, when you're using the coding agent, the version that you run on github.com and you assign pull requests runs on github.com actions. Now they announce also support to run this on self-hosted agent, which is another step to get closer to have tighter governance and help enterprise clients. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a major introduction. And with the cost stuff as well, like, you know, I can imagine I only pay for a couple, but I can imagine lots of enterprise clients that are in this space and looking at AI for development like really seriously will probably have quite a few different subscriptions going on, and being able to centralize all of that with the major models will be a big win for them.
And I think that the other thing that really amazed me, right, it was the introduction of more and more security tools, and not only security but also they announced code quality, which for me is essentially something that we're discussing with many clients. Many clients they're asking us. Sergio, when we adopted Copilot, what is the strategy and how we start, how we continue, what is the overall strategy? And I'm always saying the same, right? You can use Copilot to go faster, but before you go faster, probably you have to fix some of the technical debts that you have, right? And yeah, if you don't have good unit tests, good integrated tests, obviously both Copilot and humans will struggle to know if they are creating some kind of regressions. If you don't have good code quality, good code linting, good comments, AI will struggle to follow the code and help you to improve that. So code quality for me is the first step in the journey. And then when you start improving that, it can help you to accelerate the development process. But obviously having code quality tools embedded in Copilot, embedded in GitHub, is going to be also a game changer to help us accelerate.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Again, I'm on their recap website, and they've got quite a few screenshots of the code quality dashboards and examples of improvements that you can make to your code base. I'll have to make use of that.
Yeah. And on Agentic HQ, it was really amazing. We had on stage OpenAI showing their codex agent right integrated into Copilot. There was an amazing demo where you could see a game. They triggered 4 jobs in parallel within Visual Studio Code, and you could see how 4 instances of the codex agent were working at the same time, fixing different parts of the code. And then there was a really mind-blowing moment where you could see all 4 working together, integrated into the Copilot experience and working for you. It was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, is that for future release, or is that available now?
So this has been put in public preview for all GitHub Pro Plus subscribers. So if you have a GitHub Copilot Pro Plus subscriber, you can
give it a try.
You can get your hands on it, and start playing with.
Great. Yeah, that's something I need to get more into. I mean, at the moment, whenever I'm using an agent, I'm using one. And I will switch my models depending on what I'm doing, but everything is in series. Being able to expand that to do things in parallel would be a game changer, definitely. So I don't know if it's one of the things you've already talked about, but did you have a big wow moment during one of the talks?
For me, yeah, Agent HQ, having multi-agents and expanding beyond the current experience, and being able to bring different models into the Copilot experience was for me, wow, that's big. That's going to help to accelerate and transform the development, right? Because you can get much more input and much more powerful models into the Copilot experience. So like, yeah, that's really cool. That's really
and it's
cool.
only going to get better from here on out, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
only the start.
Exactly.
Well, just a message for the audience. If you were at GitHub Universe or you've followed and watched the keynotes, I'd love to hear from you. We can discuss it in the comments further. Send me an email at mailbag@sqlsquared.co.uk if you have any questions for Sergio as well. I'm sure I can pass them on, and we can get some answers back to you. moving on from GitHub Copilot then, and a little bit further into the main, overall world of AI, I'm not surprised at all that AI and agents were the star of the show at GitHub Universe this year. It's all the rage at the moment, and there's a lot of advancements within the industry. I remember we had a chat a few months ago, and you gave a very good description on what the difference between machine learning, AI agents, and AI chat like Copilot or ChatGPT are, like what the differences are. Because I know the terms are used interchangeably by people, but they do mean different things. So I was wondering, like, how would you practically distinguish between them, and what would you describe their differences?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? And I think when we say AI, people always say GenAI or LLMs, right? Because obviously, I think what changed everything a couple of years ago was when ChatGPT came to the market, right? So I think that was the biggest wow moment that we've seen so far, because
To the
really,
general public, yeah,
exactly, it's when it kicked things off, and I think people automatically associated AI with Gen AI, right? But in the end, we have AI as a field of study in computer science, right? That focus on has different subsets within it, where we have machine learning, with the branch that studies the creation of intelligent machines, right? And that learns from data. Then we have deep learning, which in the end is the use of artificial neural networks as a subset of machine learning methods. And then within deep learning, we have GenAI, which is obviously the application of large language models to generate data that looks similar to the data they've been trained, right? It really mimics really well let's say the human language. So this is how we can differentiate between them, right? As subsets of this field of study, which is AI.
Yeah, I think some people might not realize that the field of AI has actually been around for quite a long time.
Yeah, long time.
A very long time. The technologies like the LLMs that we have these days, have been multiple decades in the process of development, and research and advancement. But, I was even working closely with some kind of machine learning models, nearly 10 years ago, and playing around with them. So, I know firsthand that it's not brand new, and a lot of the field of AI and machine learning algorithms that we've had in the past to do predictive analytics and stuff like that, they've been around for a while, and been doing their job well.
Yeah, exactly. And now we reach a moment, right, where technology matured. So we had the field, we had the theory, and now we've got all the computing power. I think the cloud race that we saw in the last decade, right, really accelerated the concentration of computing capacity, right? And also we've been evolving. We've seen an evolution on CPU, GPU capabilities and power, right? And if you combine this growth in compute power coming out of individual players like NVIDIA, right, and GPUs, you combine them with this concentration of power in cloud vendors, what really enabled companies to start getting more out of the theory and the AI studies that for so many years and so many people worked on.
Yeah, at a scalable and configurable cost as well.
Exactly.
So I think if you were to invest in an in-house AI server, it'll set you back quite a few tens of thousands of pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's really expensive at the scale that you need, right? You've seen Elon Musk building MacroHard now in Texas, right? Building MacroHard, right? The Colossus 2, is a massive investment, and is the kind of scale that you need to build this kind of next generation solutions.
We're moving from that into the development life cycle, I suppose. All the the discussions we've had in the past have been very development focused. the tools and features that were brought out in GitHub Universe, again, very development focused. I think lots of developers, I think especially experienced developers that have been in the industry for quite a long time, will struggle to adapt their workflows for the age of agents. Do you have any tips for them on how to create an efficient AI development lifecycle?
Yeah. So I think we had Satya on the launch stage for the final part of the Universe keynote, right? And the last question that the panel asked to Satya was, what are the skills required, right, to thrive in this AI world? And I think he made a very good, let's say, reflection on, I think in terms of the important bits, right, the important skill is to move from what to how, right? This with AI, we start moving away from what we need to do exactly in terms of lines of code, and we need to start moving to how we make things happen, right? How we combine the technologies, how the architecture should look like, right? How the security control should look like. It's moving to how the SDLC should look like rather than the exact what. And then what we do is we partner today with AI agents, in what GitHub called the wave 2 of agentic AI. In the future, we start seeing autonomous team members and autonomous teams that will start picking more and more work for us. And it can be a bit scary, right? I've been a software engineer as well, an architect, and trying to let go some of the bits that we used to do is scary, right? So for me, the important bit is have this mindset that moving from what to how, and as I was saying earlier, start with the basics and focus on the low-level value tasks. When you saw in that session that we did in Manchester a few months ago, the closing message was, there's a lot of things that we can't do today, right? And it's creating technical debt. So how many people have the perfect unit testing, credit testing, the code structure? So we can start using Copilot and GenAI tools to help us take away all these technical debts, right? So start with unit testing, start with code quality issues, set a good baseline. So when you bring in AI to do more complex jobs, you can make sure that the regression is under control and AI won't struggle with lack of documentation, right? And when you have that baseline, obviously AI is about data, right? And is another point that we discussed with clients many times, right? So you need to not only have good models that are able to code, but you also need to have good requirements, and AI can help you with that, right? From requirements gathering. So some of the advice that we are giving to clients is that, okay, you have Microsoft Teams transcripts, right? So you can start storing them and you can start using them to create technical designs, to review if all the requirements have been captured, to start shaping the product backlog, right? Using Copilot itself. And then when you have a good product backlog, ground it in your requirements, and you can accelerate the requirement gathering process with that. Then obviously the coding agents will be able to deliver faster because you will have good input for the model. Because otherwise, you have now what's happening now, and this I think is creating a lot of frustration, is engineers are basically working to fix the gap that we have in terms of context for the models. You spend a lot of time writing long prompts, right? Moving from capturing requirements manually, building the documents, feeding into the agents, and when the time comes to do the fun part, which is code, agent takes on. It's like, we need to help quality and requirements. We need to start streamlining all the process. So this is fun again.
Yeah, I suppose that really builds into that how, doesn't it? There's
correct.
a lot more work around the how than I think you'd realize when you start asking that question. And everything you said there, I've found out firsthand. But when I started only a few months ago, using agents for development, none of that additional context was there. Struggling to provide it with the right prompts and give it the right tools to do the right job. And it would always make mistakes. And I'd find myself correcting it more often than not. But the more I built that context in the background, the more I used it to first go and audit the code base and create instructions itself on how to improve and what the context behind the change that I wanted, the descriptive documentation, details on security principles, unit testing, like you said. When you give it all of that context, is a much, much, much better job. And so I've definitely become a lot better at producing a lot of those back end or background, more accurately, materials to help the agents be more successful.
And GitHub Copilot basically give us 3 core tools that lives in the short-term memory space, let's say, right?
Okay.
Because you have the most basic unit is obviously the Copilot instructions, which obviously it was initially a file and is evolving to a set of files, right, that lives within the repo, but can also be expanded to at organization or enterprise level, right, which obviously is giving you the basic instructions that you want the agents to follow. Instructions has been evolving really nicely now because now we can have instructions that are targeted to specific folders within the solution, so you can effectively.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was really cool when I found out, because if you're using Copilot instructions today, it's a massive file with all the instructions that sometimes adds a lot of noise for the model, right? Because you have all the instructions for all the things you want to cover in a project, but the project can be massive. So you can now create inside the .github folder, you can create Copilot instructions. It's like the general file. And then within .github, you can create the instructions folder. And in that file, you can use from meta to say these specific instructions apply to this folder or folder pattern. And then you have specific instructions for that. And what Copilot does is it start aggregating instructions for the different matches that it is touching, and say, okay, I'm going to edit this file. What is the instructions? And start dynamically building a set of instructions. Right? It's combining them, right, to be more accurate. And that's really helpful to avoid lots of noise, because sometimes happens large instructions and noise and start behaving a bit weirdly. Once we've got the instructions and in a good shape, and again, Copilot can help you to shape the instructions, right, and fine tune them. The second thing that I see is helping and is a good natural logic step is using prompt, right? So along with the instructions folder, you can create a prompts folder, and then you can start using the slash whatever command that you want. So for instance, one of my commands is a slash build test or a slash push, right? So I've automated the build process before making a push, or with I ask Copilot, please run unit tests, run linting, is the code building. So it's all these steps that I always follow to do certain tasks in my day-to-day. I've automated with a command. So I ask Copilot, please run this for me. I don't want to do all the manual checks before I push, right? Because it's always the same, as I was saying, it's always the same. It's boring. It's not adding value, right? So I ask Copilot, please do these validations for me while I focus on other tasks. So instructions, prompts is the second one. And then you have agents, which is something that evolved in the last month from initially they were called chat modes. I don't know if you heard about chat modes.
Yeah, I've used the new agents feature. I've created like a custom one for audit purposes. So basically something I can go ask it a question, but it actually won't make any changes. It'll just go and audit the code base or the change that I want to make or the bug that I have. And then it will return a report, and then I can feed that report into another agent that will go and make the change for me.
Correct. Again, for me, it's really useful because you don't have to start switching tools, because one of the frustrating things as well, right, when you have 200 tools is, okay, I'm in architect mode and I want to use this specific tool from the tool set, right? So with agent mode, you can define what is the expected behavior, what is the tools that you want the agent to use, and you only switch mode, and then you ask. If you start combining these 3 elements, it really helps you to start working in the short-term Copilot short-term memory and behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were saying, David, as well, you need to start working more on the context. And this is where we are with telling clients, are collecting your transcripts, make sure that your documentation starts to be more up to date, right? Try to use Copilot to update your documentation. And then what we're doing is we're using AI Foundry, for instance, is building RAG pipelines and graph RAG pipelines to start extracting information from these different data sources, and then in Azure and AI Foundry start creating an AI search vector indexes, so we can then plug this into GitHub Copilot using MCP servers.
I need to talk to you a bit more of that, maybe outside of the podcast. That's something I'm very interested in.
Yeah, because if you joined everything together, right, you have, as we explained to clients as well, right, you have like the short-term memory, which is the context window and the instructions that you're creating for the agent, but obviously you have to have like more long-term memory, right? So for me, the long-term memory is split into big areas. The intermediate memory, which is, it can be GitHub issues, it can be ADO boards, right? So is the tasks that we as engineers created for our purpose in the past, where we describe the tasks, what we need to do in more detail, right? The feature epic task. For me, that's the intermediate memory. I'm using and we're using this GitHub issues or IDEO board tasks as a place where we work with Copilot to refine the requirements, and then go to the long-term memory, to the embeddings in AI search, and extract the information and validate that all the instructions and all the content that we need for the context is prepared in the task, and then the task to Copilot as an input. Right? So it's from long-term to short-term memory, let's say.
Yeah, I suppose the transition from those 2 points is very important to getting the right output.
And it's not much different from what we've done, right? You
No.
think it's what we've done in the past, but we use work documents to capture the requirements for clients, created the Jira tasks, and then hand it over to engineers, right, to do the implementation.
Yeah, transferable to human skills when you actually think about it.
Yeah, correct.
But we started talking about tools, and one thing that I found is really important, especially when providing instruction and context, is using the right tool for the right job. You'll find that there'll be huge improvements to the output of your prompts if you're using the right tools. One of the things where you just touched on the agents in Visual Studio Code, and then also the tools that sit in there. Tools might be provided by MCPs or other extensions that you've got installed. I remember a few months ago, it was so frustrating that it only took in was it 128 tools you could action in any one prompt, and then without the various agents that you could configure, you'd have to go and manually untick and change the tools that you wanted. But now I noticed, I think it was since that agent feature release, that if you don't bother selecting what tools you want to use, which sometimes I don't, it does an automatic optimization of tool set behind the scenes. So there's no longer any errors that tell me you can't have more than 128 tools selected, and I have to go and say, okay, right, well, what do I want to untick to get to that point?
Yeah.
Goes and optimizes it itself to get those tools. Expanding on that, like, I know that you work mostly, I think, with architecture and design of software and cloud solutions. From that standpoint, for those listening out there, what does that term, the right tool for the right job, mean for you?
Yeah. Good. Is a good question. So for me, in the Copilot era, right, for me, the right tool for the right job means that you have to make a careful choice of the inputs that we give to AI, right? As you said, we can have 5,000 tools, and the combination of that 5,000 tools can produce very different outcomes. And going back to the how, right? We need to think how we combine those tools. What is the right tool combination that we can put in the mix to make sure that when AI starts working, is making the right decisions in choosing and combining them, right? Because you give a too wide range of tools. Sometimes I've seen, for instance, Copilot trying to build Python scripts to do things that basically you can do with a command line. So it's like, why are you using Python? But I just use the command line, right? And that's the consequence of having too many options and too many tools, right? When you have too many choices, you can, it can work, but we need to help with the how, right? And one of the side events that we've got in GitHub Universe was a really cool event as well in GitHub HQ, which was called MCP Universe, right? And it was a really nice 3-hour event in their HQ, as I was saying, which we have Anthropic and we have other companies there. We're talking about all things MCP, because when it comes to tools, usually MCP as Model Context Protocol is right now is the leading community effort to bring more and more tools into AI. And there was very good conversations as well, not only in using but also building MCP servers, right? So should we be building them? How we build them, right? There's the gap and how we do it. And because obviously you have MCP servers and everyone is building the MCP servers, but you might need to do something for you specifically. And there was a very interesting discussion in the room that should we take an API and build an MCP server, right? Why to run? Should we shape MCP servers around intents and a combination of APIs to satisfy specific needs? So again, it's the tooling conversation that and making sure that we build tools that's really relevant for AIs and not just throwing them everything and guess for the best, let's say.
Yeah, I went to a talk recently, actually, where they were discussing development of MCPs for APIs. Something that I took a lot of interest in. I've always weighed up the question in my head of, when it comes to MCPs, is it better to have an MCP that does a lot for a business? So one MCP that links to multiple systems is able to manage different processes, or is it better to have an MCP that's very pinpoint? It's built for a specific reason. You link to it for that specific reason. And then obviously when you have your agent flows in the background, you use your various MCPs for the various, again, right tool for right job, or is it best to have something that's does a lot more in one system?
Yeah, I think that was part of the discussion as well, right? So it's how you balance is an API, is a one-to-one API, or is a combination of APIs? And I think it is more is shape around behaviors and shape about intents, right? What do you want to do with this? Are you trying to get some, or are you trying to give booking capabilities into Copilot? So you are creating a booking endpoint that can search for hotels and then can book and then can make the payment. Or is creating an APIs and then hoping for the AI to combine them? I think we need to balance. It shouldn't be a one-to-one API. It shouldn't be a big endpoint that is too vague, and then the AI really don't know what the endpoint do or the MCP do, right? Because that's the other risk. If you have a very generic MCP server tool, obviously what Copilot is, or any model we do to choose the tools, is go to the description and try to understand what the tool does, right? This is how the optimization process works. So, okay, I have 400 tools. What are the descriptions? What's my job? And they start planning. So if you find the right balance between vagueness or generalism and low-level API calls, obviously Copilot will be much, let's say, much more able to. So that's the right tool for me for the job, and then pick it up.
For those that are looking at building MCPs, because I just tried to, I did a bit of proof of concept building one for just like connection to one of our work SQL servers. Very, very simple. I found it was actually not as hard or scary as I thought it was going to be. What advice would you give to someone who's attempting to build an MCP themselves? Like, what technologies should they use?
So in terms of technologies, obviously Copilot, use Copilot, will Copilot, right? It's really like helping us to accelerate the process. In terms of technologies, I think the language that you're more comfortable with, MCP in the end is a protocol, right? It's an open source effort to drive connectivities or to connect agents and LLM models into an external source in a standardized way. So solving a critical problem, and some of the panelists were using the term is like TCP, right, for agents. So if you are building it today, you can use Python, you can use TypeScript, choose the tools that you are most comfortable with, but think in the problem that you are trying to solve. What is missing today in the model context that you are trying to bring, and try to shape that into intents, right? And trying to get the average sales and trying to get the, I don't know, the customers that are currently available in our CRM system. Try to find the intent that you're trying to fill into the context of the agent, and start using Copilot to shape the MCP from there. Right? Don't go there and say, I'm going to create an MCP where I can do a select query into the database.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, you mentioned the word intent there. I think that's a very important term to take into development of these things. You have to know what you're trying to do.
Correct. And more with AI, as we move from what to how, knowing what we're trying to achieve, right? The intent is becoming our critical, let's say, or core element as engineers.
Yeah, I think there's historically, or at least in my experience, certain development of platforms and products and tools can be rushed, and developers figure it out as they go along. You've got some high level requirements, but you don't really know how it's all going to piece together until you start developing it. And I think that's one of the reasons lots of technical debt appears later on down the line. There's a flip of skills here where you need to understand how it's all going to fit together and how it's all going to work, and the intent behind the code that you're writing to use the agents effectively. That's my biggest learn so far from this conversation.
Yes, and I think that's a very good point, David, that I've been discussing with some people as well. That in the end, we are underestimating how AI, how Copilot can be useful in the let's say creation stage or the creative stages, right? We don't know exactly what we want to do or how we can do it. We can ask Copilot to draft ideas, right? And once we get our heads around the problem, say, okay, that's it. I want to do this, and this is how pieces are puzzled together. Then you can ask Copilot, okay, clean this up in this structure, and then you can bring in your engineering experience and structure the code in this way, refactor this, refactor that, and then it can really help you to accelerate. As you were saying, you have some technical data today, you can quickly pipe up.
Yeah. It's like you have to have more of the mind of an architect than the mind of a developer.
Yeah, I think it's evolving, and you start having a bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Only that the low-level tasks rather than having only junior. That because how our profession evolved over time, right? So I started in this world like 15 years ago. So yeah, I'm not that old, but it's been 15 years now, and you always had junior people coming in, learning from the seniors, taking more complex tasks, right? The problem that we have today, and it's a very interesting topic as well, I'm mentoring some juniors today that asking me, Sergio needs help. How can I get into this world, right? The problem today that obviously you can give all these junior tasks to AI, right? And AI will do it for you. So we are moving from simple tasks to the more complex tasks, because obviously AI can take simple ones.
Yeah.
But we also need to balance, and we need to give juniors the opportunity to learn with AI. And juniors, if you're hearing me, you can learn a lot from Copilot. So for me, it's not taking the juniors out of the roles, and it's a call as well. It's a call as well for companies to hire more juniors. I give them the opportunity, right? I give them Copilots. They can learn much faster than I did 15 years ago. And we need to combine seniors and AI, and then juniors and AI. They will work together. So we need to give juniors simple tasks so they can work with AI to solve them, and then the senior people will work with AI to solve more complex problems. And this will help us to continue having this flow of talent that we need in the world.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, one of the, when I work with the juniors in the company I work for, I always say to them, look, I've got no problem with you using Copilot, no problem with you using agents, bring it into your workflow, enhance what you do, make what you do better, but make sure you understand what it's done. I've had a few times where people have just, again, they've been on the start of that agent journey where I said they're not providing the context. They haven't got the additional resources around it. They're not providing that how. They're still thinking about the what. And they go and try and develop using the agent, and what comes out is a mess. And they don't understand it. They haven't reviewed it. They bring it to me and I'm like, what on earth is this? This just doesn't work. And I'm not going to be able to scale this. This is so
Yeah.
Teaching people to said that how, I think, very important message from yourself. Teaching people to do that properly, especially at a junior level, will put people at the right foundations to actually make a success of using AI, and still feel growth within their careers as well.
And it's very important to give, as we did, right? Give juniors tasks that they can manage, because if you give a big task to a junior today, they can ask Copilot to do it, and Copilot can do lots of things, but it can also get out of control really quickly, right? And as you said, then they don't know what exactly is seen on the screen. They don't understand. Then obviously go to the senior person and say, basically the saying is, I need help. I made a mess here. I don't know what to do with this. And sometimes it's try to reduce the scope of the task, even for seniors. Start chunking the big task in a smaller task, so Copilot don't pan too much, because it can write code much faster than we can understand and we can build in our mind. We need to visualize the code, right? So it's start chunking the job as we did in smaller tasks, fix smaller problems, and then take it from there. And I think, David, you made a very good point as well. And there's a heated discussion in LinkedIn. I always jump in, because when people say I saw a post the other day in LinkedIn where basically it was a guy saying that he saw the people using AI as lazy, right? And he wasn't hiring laziness. My answer was like, then if that was the case, in the past, we haven't hired people using IDEs and using Stack Overflows. We will hire people coding in low-level programming languages and doing no research. And I think that's not the case. The important bit is we need to embed the tools in the process. And I want in my team, I want people that are really able to embed the tools and evolve the process with the tools that are available. But as you said, the important thing is you need to understand what's coming out. So we shouldn't be valuing in interviews, we should be valuing the process. We need to value the outcome and the ability of engineers of explaining the outcome, because that means they are using tools to think on the problem and the how, and they are in control of what they are doing. Because otherwise, that's laziness. If you're vibe coding and you know what producing, you're lazy.
Exactly.
Right? So that's what we need to be evaluating interviews now.
Yeah. I've started asking questions in interviews that I've conducted. How do you use AI? How are you implementing it in your workflow? Because I want people to use it. Why would you purposefully not use something that can be so beneficial to your efficiency in terms of both time and cost? The skills that you can provide juniors by using AI that they would never have before is insane. They've just got to not be lazy, and they've got to stick with it, work with it, build with it, understand what it's done, and it can be an amazing learning tool on top of everything. That's what I found. I mean, I'm a data engineer. I thought I knew Python. I started building more complex integrations, data movement pipelines and processes, notebooks with agents. And I learned so much. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know this feature existed, or that feature existed, or this process, or that architectural principle. And I feel like within 6 months, I've doubled, even tripled my ability with Python than what existed before, just from using AI and actually walking through it and trying to understand what it's done.
Absolutely, that's the key. That's key, to be honest. AI. I wrote recently a post on Medium, my Medium page, that was called a bit of clickbaity here. Right? The 100x engineer, right? Building on the concept of the 10 engineer, and the end, the message there is, with AI, we now have like a next stage, right? So with AI, you have the ability to go from 10 to 100 because it's helping you to multiply your capabilities today, right? So if you are 10x today, you are 100. So it's a different league and a different ability to deliver value to the business. But this is, as we say, AI helps you for the good and the bad, right? AI magnifies the good, so you're a 10, you're 100. But also, if you are not really doing well your job and you are not careful and you don't pay attention, obviously you are magnifying those weaknesses or those bad things. You are becoming worse. So you need to be very careful. And the article I covered that the performance in the end is a combination of 4 factors, right? Obviously, the human skills and your experience as engineer, your human AI skills, right? Your ability to master the tools like GitHub Copilot, right? To create craft prompts, context, etc. Then the AI capabilities themselves that are available to you in your company, right? And then your attitude, right? Because if you don't have the right attitude, you can have the best tools, you can be the best in the world, but it's like, yeah, so you don't get that. But it's really important that we see performance today as this combination of 4, right? Because basically, if you are saying, no, I don't hire people that use AI, basically, you are out of the game because the performance today will be the human AI skills combined with the rest of the skills and the tool that you have and your attitude.
You mentioned there about obviously rejecting people that use AI. And I mentioned that, I try and look for it. Would you recommend, especially for hiring managers, seniors, lead developers out there, would you recommend that they've got to onboard AI to take them to that next step, to take them from that 10x engineer to a 100x engineer?
If you want to remain competitive in the market, you don't have a choice. You have to do it. It's absolutely necessary, and you have to focus on the outcomes, and you want people in the teams that know how to use these tools, because otherwise others will, and then you won't be competitive. You'll be out of the game.
Yeah. So one last point. I heard a lot on the news recently, kind of within the tech space. You might have seen Github Universe was over in Silicon Valley. I know that they've been adopting, even this process of 996 working. When you work, what is it, 9 till 9, 6 days a week, just to try and get ahead of the competition, try and get people in working on new systems, R&D, experiments as much as they can to try and get ahead and be a leader in this AI space. That's obviously something I definitely don't want to ever do. But I felt like using agents and AI to its full potential within your normal workday can kind of take you there. It's that bump to going ahead of a competition. It's like having 2 or 3 extra developers on your team, where you're effectively working more hours than you actually are if you're doing things in parallel, side by side. And that's the analogy that I think of when implementing AI within a business. It's that, if you compare a business as working 996 and a business that's working 9 to 5 days a week, inevitably that one working 996 with the right people, right implementations in place, will probably get ahead. And having AI and not having AI in your workflows, to me, has the same effect.
Exactly. And imagine if you are doing 996 with AI and without AI, basically people don't use an AI in 996. They are out of the game anyway. And And the problem right now is that we are in an arms race, right? So everyone is rushing because they want to be ahead. And you've seen goes well beyond technology. You see all governments, US, China, everyone is rushing, building data centers, building nuclear plants, securing chips, securing rare earths. It is an arms race. This is a political game as well, right? And you see this rush, and everyone is rushing here right now. But in terms of productivity, some clients as well. To your point, David, is how much time I'm going to save. So how less time I will be spending developing, and my answer is always, I think there's enough technical debt and there's enough things to do that rather than saying how less time I will spend developing.
Thinking about it in the wrong way.
How much time do we spend doing more things for the business? How we will help our business to deliver more business value through software? How much technical debt we can get rid of today that can help us to accelerate to the delivery of more business solutions? Because in the end, it's always the same. Technology is not the end; it's a means, right? We are using technology to help the business to be competitive, to deliver business value to our clients. So we need to think in those terms. We have AI. We are 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. How much technical debt we can get? How many applications can we modernize? How can we make our lives easier to focus on, and not because we are lazy, but why we should be spending time on things that we can automate and then deliver more business value for our business and our clients, right? And I think the conversation is to shift to technical debt, optimizing the SDLC process, and evaluating the business impact that we're having, not from a time, but from a business value and features perspective.
Sergio, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. I'm going to take away a lot from this. And thank you for bringing us all these fresh insights directly from GitHub Universe, and for breaking down like all this new tech and what it actually means for us people on the ground. It was a real pleasure.
Pleasure. Well, David, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to be here with you today. And yeah, all the best, and Copilot, everyone.
Yeah. And the same to you.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to everyone listening and watching, as always. If you enjoyed this chat, please do us a huge favor, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube. And wherever you're listening, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music, all the other platforms that this goes out to, please make sure to subscribe on there. You can visit podcast.sequelsquared.co.uk to see all the episodes in one place and all the descriptions there, so you can find the right episode for you from the past ones that we've had. sequelsquared.co.uk also has a blog, so if you want more articles and content, you can visit my site and read those. There's some interesting reads there. I'm sure I'll be doing some stuff on a lot of these AI agents in the future. Finally, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer on the show, especially about AI or the cloud development, send it to mailbag@sequelsquared.co.uk. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, stay curious. Cheers, everyone, and thank you again, Sergio.
Thank you.